Megumi Fushiguro. Oh, I wish I could be nicer to you, buddy. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact. Have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact. Megumi Fushiguro. My thoughts on him. This is a exercise in order to make sure that I, a long-term yapper, can condense my thoughts down into 10 minutes or less. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it with Megumi. We're going to break this down into 3 sections. Megumi's role narratively and how I feel about it. Megumi's role or writing as a character and how I feel about it. And Megumi's role power scaling wise and how I feel about it. Though admittedly, I feel like the power scaling section is going to be a whole lot shorter and a whole lot less controversial than a lot of other power scaling sections I'm going to cover in this series. But I've already started my timer. Let's talk about Megumi's role narratively. He is literally a walking, talking, breathing plot device. Like that is it. Like, don't get me wrong. I 100% agree, understand, and respect the fact that every single character in a story is a plot device. They don't exist unless they serve some sort of narrative function. Even if that function is filler. Even if that function is just to exist in general. A character is a plot device. From your main character to a side character to a background character, they're all plot devices. Don't get me wrong, I get that. But there's an issue very specific with Megumi because he's the series deuteragonist. Now, I've heard arguments that Gojo is the series deuteragonist, and while I can respect those, I think they're wrong. But okay, we'll talk about that more in the Gojo video. But ultimately, I don't think Gojo is the series deuteragonist. He doesn't have enough screen time. He's not highlighted major. He's much more in the mentor archetype, in the general shonen writing style, and not even just general shonen writing style, like in the hero's journey. Gojo's definitely set up more as the mentor type character, not the deuteragonist, despite having extensive times to cover him. But once again, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother video. But very specifically, Megumi is the deuteragonist. And don't get me wrong, deuteragonists haven't always been peak, but I have kind of high standards for my deuteragonists. Gosh darn it. Alibaba from Manga, real high standards. Vegeta, okay, pretty low standards. That man does nothing but suffer. And sorry. And then Sasuke from Naruto. Like, I love me a good deuteragonist. And notably, I feel a good deuteragonist should do everything in their power, writing-wise, and an author should do everything in their power with a deuteragonist, narratively, in order to raise up the main character, and by proxy, raise up the deuteragonist. And here's the thing. Narratively, even though I wholeheartedly say Megumi is a wholesale walking, talking plot device, and not in the everyone's a plot device way, in the negative way that you typically hear the term character's a plot device being used, technically he does it, but I just don't like how he does it. Mainly because Megumi is a character who I don't think is given enough narrative time for someone like me and many others to care. Notably, I'm kind of a weirdo. I have different opinions than a majority of the fandom. I don't know why it does this, but now we're at super wide angle, so we're stuck here. But with that being the case, I'm in a spot where I just don't really like how Megumi is handled because it doesn't feel like enough is given to him, right? Like I feel like Gege very specifically gave him smaller amounts of screen time, even smaller than he gave Yuji, in order for us to not necessarily see the twist of Megumi happening all too quickly or all too clearly. But as a byproduct, Megumi himself never really got to feel like a real deuteragonist outside of short bursts, short moments, short instances. And don't get me wrong, a fat chunk of the plot is built around the man. Remember, the entire Culling Games plot that leads to Megumi in the first place is all because of Megumi. I cannot sit here and lie to you and say that Megumi doesn't have any narrative weight. I just don't like how it's handled. Because I feel like it's so much, it's so much for the plot, it almost feels like Megumi isn't a character. And whenever he gets to have moments of character, they get pretty much snuffed out and laid down immediately afterwards. Like, we had that spike when he first allowed his main expansion. Then it drops off a cliff all the way back up until the Culling Games, when he has his own motivation, and then we go away from him for a little bit. And then we come back from the Culling Games, he's going absolutely crazy and buku bonkers, and then we don't see him again. And then by the time we do see him again, we get 3 chapters with him, and then he gets possessed. So, like, he's there. He has enough time. I can recognize him as the deuteragonist, but narratively speaking, he feels the most plot device coded out of all the plot device characters, and that is, it's not agreeable. I don't like it. I don't like it. You'd be like, that sounds so whitey pencil. It is good. I don't like it. But with that being the case, narratively, he serves his purpose, but I kind of just don't like how he's handled. Now, character-wise, I basically feel the exact same way. Megumi has moments of character interest, and I even understand Megumi as a character. Notably, I don't have a sister. But if I only had one person who was essentially the entirety of my family, I would also do everything in my power to save them to the best of my ability. And I respect that. I understand that. I see the vision on that. It's crystal clear. 2020 vision, I forget how the rest of the bar goes. But with that being the case, it's not enough. I've seen many a Megumi before. I do this for I've seen many, ironically, Megumi-style deuteragonists before where I'm doing all this for the sake of my family. And the thing is, Megumi has his moments of interest. He's not absolutely flatline. I mentioned the domain expansion, and very specifically, the moment that Megumi piqued my interest, had my eyebrow going up like, ooh, is very specifically when he first takes the life of one of Reggie's goons. And it's like, 5 points down. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep moving. I don't care what I have to become as long as I can save some. I'm like, whoa, okay. Let's get devious. Let's get diabolical with it. Let's get fancy. Let's get free with it. But not only does he not 100% double down the bit, he essentially immediately retracts because of Samuki, another non-character, by the way. But also, he then gets possessed and just isn't a character for the back fifth of the narrative. From chapter 213 to chapter, whatever the last chapter of the manga is, he's not a character. He just flat out isn't. And then the short bursts of moments we get him as a character, he's either selling the bag, which is fine, you know, I'm okay with characters selling the bag, and or he's saving the bag and then essentially gets off no consequences. It just feels so weird, right? Like, Megumi as a character feels like he should have more. It feels like there were paths we were walking down, whether it be in his mania that we saw back when he first awakened his domain expansion, whether it be that one single-minded determination that would lead him down a path of darkness that we saw in the Culling games. It felt like there were a bunch of different directions that Megumi could have gone if they had more time before they got possessed. Or at least if they were more active, this sounds weird, but a more active character when they were possessed. But it just isn't the case, and it doesn't work in the way that someone like Sukuna works with minimal screen time, because eventually Sukuna gets a whole bunch of screen time and characterization. Megumi just never gets that. And it's whack. And it bothers me. And I don't get why Gege did it that way. But once again, maybe it's just narrative function, where ultimately Gege is like, well, I don't really care how much of a character he is, as long as he fulfills his narrative role. If that's the case, that's fine, but that leaves me with an empty character. A character who, when I look at a lot of his contemporaries, in new gen, not to talk of old gen, I'm like, you know, he's kind of alright, kind of mid. Like, there's nothing extraordinary about Megumi outside of moments here and there that could have been something. He is literally the cold, hard, purest definition of potential man. And don't get me wrong, I love me a good potential man. In fact, speaking of potential men, let's talk about Megumi in the power scaling sense. Now, I ain't gonna be one to lie to you. I ain't about to sell you no fibs or nothing. I think Megumi's dog water. Don't get me wrong, I, like many others, believe that Megumi by EOS has this insane next level potential. He still has access to the Ten Shadows, he could possibly tame Raga, he could have access to Sukuna's Shrine, like there's a whole bunch of stuff he could do, but if we're looking at Megumi in a narrative sense, he's not even top 15. He may not even be top 20 based on what we actually know. Sure, his Divine Dog is bigger. Okay, Black Flash. Okay, Jacob's Ladder. Okay, insert any sort of high tier and or top tier and they take Megumi for a walk. Like it's bad. It's bad. That boy is fodder, and he's a deuteragonist. And don't get me wrong, JJK is clearly a story where our main cast doesn't actually end up being the strongest, or at least our main trio doesn't actually have to end up being the strongest, and ultimately that ends up serving the narrative and the themes of the story better. But like, I've been writing a bunch of different versus battles, not a single one of them has included Megumi. Right now, I can tell you at the top of my dome piece, I got 7. He appears in some of them, and like some of the pre-battle and post-battle cutscenes, gosh darn it. But in terms of like Megumi himself, he's just not interesting to cover. And of course, you know, I've always had my bias against the Ten Shadows as a technique, but I also just think he's got a butt with it. I don't think Suguna did much better with it either, don't get me wrong. I don't think Suguna used the Ten Shadows to his absolute limit or peak or anything like that, but he used it way better than Megumi. And that's embarrassing. So like, I don't know, on every single level, Megumi's kind of just a disappointment to me, especially considering how much he's glazed. Like, that's the thing. If he was glazed like half as much as he was, I think I'd be able to let a whole bunch of Megumi slide with no slander at all. But because he's our deuteragonist, because he gets glazed by every single character, because he just gets reduced down to a narrative puppet role, because it all happens over a character that we don't even know at all in Samuki, and because of the fact that that's the thing though. Ultimately, even with all my issues with Megumi, I can't really say I would change too much unless I just want to add more to the story, mainly because I like what he does for Sukuna and Yuji. Our main character and our main villain. I like what he does. He's literally just a plot device for both of those characters to develop and refract off of. And it gave me some cool fights. And like Megumi has his moments. He has his 2 moments where I'm like, oh, Megumi, cool thing. And that's about it. That's about it, and that's unfortunate. It feels so unfortunate, it feels so bad to say that about Megumi, especially as the deuteragonist of a series I really, really like, but ultimately, Megumi Fushiguro rings just a bit hollow. But, of course, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave your own thoughts on Megumi in the comment section down below. If you made it to the end, though, leave leave broken shadows. I feel like I've used that before, but leave broken shadows in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that notifications post so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you even have a Patreon down below, or you can support me for as low as $1 a month. He thinks like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks will include live reactions to the series I have to review, add variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 Patreon or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, we do a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. You can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with a Pencil, writing off. I'd like to thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Super Flame Zero, Glacier XZ, Zara, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Yomi, Yuki Ally, Buddha Uda, Azo 2404, Planet Crone, G Prosper, Nevis 97, and Ali. I'd like to give a big old thank you to our line art tier patrons: Sean, Nirvana Igneal, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin Encarnacion, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our Ink tier members: Fine, Austin Wimberly, Euchia, Carlo Alaimo, and Grim. And then I'd like to give a big old hefty thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And then I'd like to give a big old thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Waki Munoz and Waki Munoz. And then I'd finally like to give a giga super duper kidney sacrificing thank you to our ultimate That Guy with a Horizon, Calvin Elder.